Okay, we have 20 minutes for this segment, and there's so much to detail here because we are declaring on this program 2017 to be the year of takeoff of Philippine and China's economic cooperation. This is going to be the beginning of the period where Filipinos will feel the tangible fruits of the positive, the entente, the diplomacy between China and the Philippines. We begin by reviewing, of course, the memorandum or memoranda of agreements between China and the Philippines after the handshake of President Duterte and President Xi Jinping. The agreements cover economic and technical cooperation between the two governments. And the NEDA and the National Development and Reform Commission of the People's Republic of China for developing cooperation on production capacity and investment. MOUs with the Department of Transport, between the Department of Transportations and the DOTC of our DOTC and National Development Reform Commission of the PROC. And so many more. Should I detail all of them? There's Ministry of Commerce on the strengthening of bilateral trade, investment, and economic cooperation. The list is too long. There are 13 items here. We will be reviewing some of the specifics already that are ongoing in a while. So, anything to add to that?
The thing that struck me here was the second to the last page. And this is something that pundits in the mainstream media are not really talking about. And it reads this way: because of the renewed ties, bilateral ties between the Philippines and China, that is, various bilateral working mechanisms, like the Joint Committee on Commerce and Trade, on Agriculture, on Science and Technology, will be revived.
Yeah. Okay.
That's an eye-opener for me, which means it stopped. You know,
it stopped during the period of the previous administration.
The previous administration. And as we are seeing now with these 13 MOUs, which are all in favor of supporting our national interest.
Yeah. Well, this one reminds me also of the announcement in the forum with Melo Acuña of Ambassador Chito Santa Romana, that the Philippines and China will resume joint exploration.
Yes.
Because this was abruptly ended in the past administration.
Yeah.
And of course, this reminds me of the
it was
potential.
Initiated by Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo.
That's right. Yeah. Now, you still hear some voices protesting and objecting. The fact is, without such joint exploration with China and previously with Vietnam, tripartite effort, the Philippines will never know what the resources are and will rely on the British and the Americans who exploit us the way they have exploited us in the Malampaya gas project, where we get less than 10% because we pay the taxes that the foreign companies are supposed to pay. Yeah. So this is a chance where the Philippines and the Filipino people can get a fair shake and a fair deal from the partner that has been a partner of the Philippines since time immemorial, 1,000 years ago, which we will go to later on.
And I will recall, the offer of China is very simple. Let's start bilateral talks so that we can meet halfway. Halfway means about 50%, more or less.
Yes, yes.
Not 7% as we're getting from Malampaya.
That's right.
Just because Shell Corporation wants to dominate all our exploratory possibilities.
That's right. Now, of course, let's not forget to mention the support for the anti-drug campaign of President Duterte that China and many of its citizens are extending. The rehab centers that are being built now in Nueva Ecija, which I think will amount to close to 1 billion pesos when all the rehab centers are put up.
You know, it's so inspiring that San Miguel Corporation also put up
Yes,
a billion
yes,
pesos.
yeah. So good. And now we are seeing concretization of these things. For example, in 2017, we are awaiting the two conferences being pushed by the Bank of China. Here's the item. Bank of China pushing for Filipino-Chinese small and medium enterprises partnership. And Bank of China is just waiting to fund projects. And there are two conferences for what they call matchmaking, to match the Philippine SMEs with China's SMEs. And if I recall correctly, one of these is in May. The other I know is in September, because we reported this already in this discussion of ours here in Journeys. So we'll keep you updated. No, the first conference is in March of this year. March, malapit na. This is just 2 months away. So we'll update you on this. And the other one I am aware is in September. So these are concrete. And I also wrote a report based on materials we collated on the China-Philippines cooperation projects. And this comes out in the Philippine BRICS Institute or Strategic Studies Group's blog, the Independent Review. And let me just review some of the things. Among the 13 memoranda of agreements of understanding that were signed, what are the concretization of these? The President of the China Chamber of Commerce for Import and Export of Foodstuffs and Native Products led a delegation here, visited Manila and Davao, and signed contracts to import about 100,000 metric tons of Philippine fruits worth more than $1 billion. So how more concrete can one get? This is signed and they're waiting. And the question is, are we able to produce this in the time frame that they want? You know? And so we have to do our part here and work double time.
And another thing that will revive and will have a takeoff is the upgrading of our agricultural infrastructure in the Philippines. You know, I was involved in 2003-2004 as a consultant to Secretary Lorenzo. We welcome Yuan Longpin in this country, the father of modern hybrid rice. And that kind of started our own farmers into adopting this. But what's important with that? The traditional variety will give you about 99 to about 120 per hectare. This technology that was brought in by China will give you a minimum of 280 cabans to, as in an exceptional case established in Mindoro, over 400 cabans per hectare. So just by planting non-traditional hybrid varieties.
Okay. More concrete steps from China's end. Deputy Chairman of the National Development and Reform Committee of China paid a working visit late last year and visited Carlos Dominguez, our DPWH Secretary Mark Villar, and others to prepare for the financing support for potential projects in with our DPWH, our infrastructure projects. Then assurances, of course, from in the 15th China ASEAN Transport Ministers meeting. China reiterated its commitment of implementing initiatives such as the Belt and Road and the 2+7 cooperation framework, which we just discussed, the Belt and Road. So these are concrete projects that are waiting to become reality. 2017. Okay, and now, of course, let us remind everyone of a very, very significant event this year, 2017. This is in connection with the travel, the journey of the Sultan of Sulu, Paduka Pahala, in 1417, 600 years ago, to China to visit Emperor Yongle. And he was declared by the emperor in China as a brother and that is a tomb of the Sultan Duka Pahala, which we visited in 2015. We were together there in 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2015.
September.
And we met the Filipino, who are now Chinese, community there, and we had dinner with the descendants of Paduka Pahala, our Sultan of Sulu. One of them, of course, who spoke in behalf of the community there is Miss Anjing, who's in her mid maybe 30s or early 40s. And unfortunately, we were not able to download a picture of her, but you have the picture in your book.
Yeah.
But anyway, there.
I don't know if you can get that shot.
Can we go that close?
This one.
A really small picture. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you can see
Anjin. And that's Ado, with Ado.
Okay.
Good. Maganda yan. We toasted at that evening, and she gave a speech and says, my ancestors are Filipino, but now I am Chinese. And in during my term to speak, I expressed the same thing, that my parents were Chinese, but now I'm Filipino. So we are really brothers and sisters in this Asian community. Here's an article by Ellen Tordesillas. Our hearts are connected. Sulking Air on Philippine-China relations. This is also Ellen Tordesillas of Malaya writing about the meeting with Anjing and the visit to the tomb of the Sultan of Sulu. We also have a movie from 1986, if I recall, produced jointly by the Philippine government and by China, entitled Hari Sahari, Lahi sa Lahi. This starred Vic Vargas and the sister of, what's her name? Rosemary Sonora. There it is. We hope to replay this in schools. We're arranging. The director, of course, is Eddie Romero, the late Eddie Romero. And we have been communicating with Ambassador Joe Romero, the brother of Eddie Romero, to allow us to show this in different schools all over the country. But it is now entrusted to the Cultural Center or National Cultural Commission. I'm not sure. And so we still have to get permission for this national, what do you call it, caravan showing of this movie. So people must remember, Filipinos must remember, and the Chinese do remember. That's why there's a monument there. Much bigger than any monument to any Sultan of Sulu here in the Philippines. Several hectares, that is a several hectare monument that has been there and maintained by the Chinese government.
8 hectares.
Yeah, from the dynasties down to the People's Republic. What do we have in the United States? The Balangiga Bell being displayed there, their conquest of the Philippines. But this one is a monument to the friendship and fraternity of China and the Philippines of the past 600 years. And this is the year we are resuming the Treaty of Friendship between the Sultan of Sulu and Emperor Yongle of China. Isipin po ninyo, 600 years. And we have 400 years more to go to make it 1,000 years. Okay, so let's wrap up. 2017, what are our prospects and potentials? What is the promise of 2017? Ado, you have any thing you want to share on this question?
Well, we finally made it, headed by our new president, who is actually ended 30 years of what was really a fraudulent EDSA revolution. I come very strongly at that, because now we're really realizing, after 30 years of almost having a Rip Van Winkle in our national progress and development, that the president has taken the cudgels to restart our dreams and to go and in high speed, a real revolution. Who would think that by 2016, just 31st year after President Marcos, the last that I could recall, who fought for national interest. In 30, will take 31st year to have a seconder, you know. And I discuss a lot about that in my book, A Problem for Every Solution. And I'm happy to say that another 5,000 copies will be published soon and released before February. And we will have surprises on the book launching. We were never able to launch it in 2015 when it was first released in July because of so many events. And of course, the political situation then was not encouraging for such a book because it could very well be misconstrued as merely an opposition to the Aquino policy. But no, it's really the reverse of the title of the book. This really aches for a solution for the problems of our country, and especially the 30 million of our people who are rotting below the poverty line.
Okay, let's take another screenshot of that book, so when it comes out in the bookstores, people can recognize it. This is also one of the first books to express the what we are seeing now in President Duterte's policy, which is openness and dialogue with China. This was published first in the midst of the tension that the Aquino administration had created with China. And since we have around 2 minutes more, let me also focus on the developing cooperation between the Philippine Coast Guard and the Chinese Coast Guard.
Yes.
Cooperation has been established. And again, this has resulted, for example, in the openness again of the Chinese government and the Philippine government to have fisheries restored. Yes. In the Panatag Shoal or Scarborough. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, assistance from the Chinese Coast Guard, for example, to several fishermen who were rescued in the aftermath of the recent typhoon. Mm-hmm. And there will be more promising benefits from this cooperation because now we are operating in an atmosphere of friendliness and brotherhood. So. Well, any final point from you, Ado, on this question of 2017, the year of the takeoff of our projects with China? 1 minute to go.
Well, I can just say Kung Hei Fat Choi. It's not just a Chinese New Year coming up, but really a new turn in our development, in our future, and more progressive development for especially the incoming generation.
Okay. Well, stand by for in the next few weeks for our Chinese New Year episode. Mm-hmm. And the New Year will be, the Chinese New Year, the Spring Festival will be on January 28 in our calendar, January 28. Okay, so that's our episode for this week. Our second Journeys, Chronicles of Our Asian Century for 2017. Mabuhay, and see you next week.